It is April 13th, 2015. I'm JJ Zacharyson, the editor-in-chief at numberFire.com. I'm here to talk a little daily fantasy baseball with you, doing the night slate only since the early slate has already started. So hopefully, if you did play the early slate, things are going well. So tonight's slate, the pitching options are not super strong. The top option on the board appears to be Jon Lester against the Cincinnati Reds in Chicago. The Reds lineup is fairly average. They do have Joey Votto, but Lester does have the platoon split against the red-hot Votto, so I think that he should be okay there. I think that Lester's a very safe option. He's capable of getting those 8 or 9 strikeouts, which is big for daily fantasy baseball, of course. And the over-under in that game is a pretty favorable 7. So I think that Lester is a strong option. Our algorithm seems to like him a lot. I would feel fine rolling him out in cash games. But if you do want some cap relief, I think that a better option at pitcher tonight could be Andrew Cashner, who's pitching for San Diego against Arizona. So Arizona's lineup is not very strong. It might appear to be strong because of where they play, but they're getting a huge park shift going from Arizona down to or over to San Diego. And the over-under in that game is now 6.5 points, or 6.5 runs, so it's not very high. So anytime that there's a big shift in bats, so you're going from a hitter's park to a pitcher's park, you really want to target that lineup because a lot of people might be turned off by that. So I think Andrew Cashner, who last year saw incredible home-away splits. Last year, I think I have his WOBA here. Yeah, his WOBA against last year at home was a 216, which is just absolutely absurd, when on the road it was something like 350. The sample size is certainly limited, but it just goes to show what Petco Park does for pitchers. So the two pitching options that I'm targeting tonight, Jon Lester, Andrew Cashner. I'm actually okay with using both of them in cash games. I think Lester's probably safer just given that he's better, but I do think that Cashner is a really, really smart option for some cap relief. And you might need that cap relief too, because the top hitter on the board tonight is easily Mike Trout. I know that you can go with Mike Trout any other night, but tonight is even more. There's even more reason to go after him. He gets the platoon split against Detweiler, who's going to be on the mound for the Rangers. And not only that, but Detweiler has massive splits, righty-lefty splits, as does Trout, obviously. But Detweiler has massive splits that favors Trout as well. I think an Angel stack in general. Our numbers really like Cool Calhoun. Pujols is going to be a good option. Mike Trout's a good option. I think getting as much Angels exposure in general is a really good choice tonight in daily fantasy. Then the other more expensive option that I think you could look at is Anthony Rizzo going against Mike Leake. Now, Mike Leake isn't necessarily a fly ball pitcher, but when bats get on the ball, they hit him hard. He has a 13.6 home run to fly ball ratio throughout his career, which is pretty bad. And Rizzo obviously has the power and the hand in the split here to be able to take Mike Leake deep. So I think that Rizzo's a decent option. I would look personally, if I'm going to spend on a guy, just spend a couple $100 more on a guy like Trout. I know on DraftKings he's a little bit more expensive than that, but I do think that Trout would be the smarter option if you're going to go with a high-price guy. But I do think that Rizzo is still fine tonight. I don't know if it's going to be possible to fit both of them in your lineup just because you're probably going to want to spend on pitching with Lester or even Cashner, who's still, in that mid-tier, close to upper-tier pricing. But I do think that Rizzo is a decent option tonight. Two cheaper guys that you're going to see in the primer that I'm going to be publishing here soon. My favorite cheap guy tonight is Ike Davis. The Athletics, I think in general, are a really good option to stack tonight. Ike Davis is the ultimate platoon guy, and the reason that's really important is because not only whenever he faces a right-handed pitcher, which he's going to tonight in Scott Feldman, but not only is that important, not only is he going to mash that pitcher because he's naturally better against right-handed pitching, but at the same time, a lot of these daily sites don't necessarily catch up salary-wise with these players. So guys who are in platoons will often have decreased salaries. So you have a guy like Ike Davis who's only $2,800 on FanDuel that's probably going to be a pretty high-owned guy just because of that. I think, though, that you kind of have to play him if you don't go with Rizzo, for instance. I think going with Ike Davis is a great option. He's only $2,800, as I said, on FanDuel. He sees a 93-point jump in WOBA, given the handiness that he goes up against. And his ISO against right-handed pitching is over 200 as well, so he has that power whenever he faces right-handers. And Feldman is definitely not a strong pitcher. The other kind of punt option that I like is Drupal Cabrera, who we often talk about But the reason for that is because his price point is usually pretty good across sites. He's a switch hitter, so there's not dramatic splits. He's going to be facing R.A. Dickey tonight. And if Dickey's knuckleball is not on, we all know what happens, what could happen to a knuckleball pitcher is that the opposing offenses can go off. I like Cabrera as a punt option because he plays a position that you can punt successfully, given that there's only a couple shortstops that you really can count on night in and night out, and one of them is playing in the early slate. I really like Cabrera too because he always bats third in the Rays lineup, so he's going to get a lot of opportunity. So in general, I think that, that Vegas also, I should note, Vegas does think that that game is going to be fairly high scoring with the Rays scoring close to 4 runs, which is pretty significant. So I do think that Cabrera is a really good option at shortstop. I love Ike Davis at first base. Those 2 guys are going to be rolling out a lot. And again, just to recap, I have Trout, Rizzo as 2 higher price guys. And then from a pitching standpoint, I really like John Lester, but I love Andrew Kashner pitching against Arizona and San Diego. Teams to stack, I've already kind of mentioned. I love the Angels tonight, and I love the A's against Feldman. I think the A's are probably definitely a more cost-effective choice, and therefore are going to be the stack that I focus on more. But if you can fit Angels into your lineup, you're going to have a successful night, I believe, hopefully. So that's about it for tonight. Hopefully, you guys can check out the primer. Check out our optimal lineup tools as well. We have a custom optimal lineup tool where you can kind of plug and play guys and then generate a lineup based on guys that you want to play, and then remove guys if you don't like those guys. But another thing that we've just added is a stack feature. So basically what you can do is you can say, I want to stack this team. So if you want to stack the Angels or the A's, for instance, you say, I want to stack this team, and then you can select how many players you want to throw in your lineup from that team, and then from there we can build a lineup around that stack for you. So hopefully you can go into some tournaments and bring home some cash. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll be back tomorrow, and good luck tonight.